Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Internationalist. Today, we are joined by artist Rehab Nazzal. Rehab Nazzal is a Palestinian born multidisciplinary artist based in Montreal, Canada, and Bethlehem, Palestine. Her works deals with the effects of settler-colonial violence on the bodies and minds of colonized peoples, on the land, and on the other non-human life. Nazzal's video, photography, and sound works have been exhibited and screened in solo and group exhibitions and film festivals in Palestine, across Canada and internationally. She is currently a postdoctoral fellow at Concordia University in Montreal and a lecturer at Dar Al-Kalima University in Bethlehem. Welcome, Rehab. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Today, we are going to discuss Rehab's Driving in Palestine, which is a multimedia project exhibited in Montreal Intercultural 2023 and Saw Center, Ottawa in 2024. This project documents roads, surveillance, and repressive state machinery through photographs in occupied Palestine. So, Rahab, to begin this discussion, my first question, which immediately came to me as I viewed your project, was how does the act of driving in Palestine become the lens through which we witness colonization and trauma endured by both the land and its people?
Well, when you move on the roads, and often this image of people looking through the window, you pass by the land and the built environment. And driving in Palestine, the title itself, it's really, it has some humor and criticality of it, because driving in Palestine is impossible. Palestine is fractured into cantons, into segregated areas. You have Gaza, which is one of the Palestinian provinces. It's being segregated entirely from the West Bank, and the West Bank and Gaza from the 1948 territories. And within the West Bank itself, you have at least 200 Jewish-only colonies, and the Palestinian cities, towns, refugee camps are being circulated by military structures. When I say cantons in the West Bank, I mean several Gazas. And I use this often analogy because, for example, I am now in Bethlehem. Bethlehem is a ghetto. It's like a concentration camp from all sides, surrounded by either Jewish-only colonies or checkpoints. The same applies for the district of Al-Khalil, Nablus, Jenin, Salfit, Tul Karem, etc., across the West Bank. So to go back to my project, I wasn't able to drive across Palestine. I'm able to travel anywhere in the world, but not in my home country. So specifically, I was driving across the West Bank. This project started between 2010 and 2020. And it began as an idea, like while observing all these manifestations of settler colonialism, of apartheid, of military occupation, they manifest clearly on the roads. From hundreds of watchtowers being built inside the Palestinian communities, at the entrances of cities, of villages inside the refugee camps. You have the Israeli or Jewish, not Israeli, the Jewish-only colonies on the hilltops in the West Bank. You have segregated roads. So all these manifestations transpire on the roads while you're driving. Like at least you can see the color-coded license plates, the segregated roads, and if you make a wrong turn, you risk your life. If you turn into a colony, for example, or pass through a checkpoint without stopping. Many people lost their lives when their cars failed on checkpoints. So that is when I decided. I started 2010, and 2020, when the pandemic hit the world, I was in Palestine. I couldn't travel. So I took my car and I drove across the West Bank. And that's when it came to my mind to create this project, because you could hear how the people were complaining about being confined, how the Palestinian people have been confined for 76 years, and the world is silent. The world is supporting, shielding, protecting the state of Israel, arming the state of Israel, and our narrative, our struggle is suppressed. So the project itself, Driving in Palestine, consists of several videos, all taking on the roads across the West Bank, as well as a book that has 150 photographs and 7 essays by Palestinian and Canadian artists and scholars, as well as a sound work and printed matter, posters and signs which replicate the segregation signs found across the West Bank. The first time it was exhibited at the Montreal Art Intercultures, and the effect was great at many levels, because the whole project is documentary based. It has some conceptual aspects to it, but it is based on documenting the life through embodied experience, through moving my body. And all the photographs, all the videos were taken in motion. I wouldn't stop to photograph a watchtower or get a bullet. So all was taken through the window of moving vehicles, either while sharing rides with others or while I was alone, having my tripod beside me with the camera on. Yes.
The detail about you not stopping as you took photographs is very crucial for me, I think, because while I viewed the photographs in Driving in Palestine, I one of the questions that did emerge for me was that how dangerous this must have been to be photographing these structures of surveillance and violence, which also brings me to the question I wanted to ask you next. Because in a settler colonial state like Israel, where they have restricted mobility and imposed surveillance measures on Palestinians, do you see then documentation or photography of such structures as an enduring form of protest?
Absolutely, there is a risk, and that's why I have my camera set to photograph in motion. It's difficult to believe how the image recording technology can create images that really no blurriness. It's very sharp, as if I stopped to take the photos, but it's all in motion. However, the idea of it, all these surveillance structures across the roads, they surveil us, and all of them have cameras. The majority of them are manned with soldiers with rifles ready to shoot. So when I, as the Palestinian colonized, occupied, turn my camera on them and use their technology to challenge them, to surveil them, basically. It was a challenge, but I have this belief that we have to document every aspect of our lives. Everything has to do with the land, because 76 years of misinformation, disinformation, suppression of our narrative, recreation of a Zionist narrative that circulates, especially across the Western world. We need to document for the next generation, for future generations. We need to tell them this is our land. That's what we endured. That's what we experienced. And this is our right. And we have to hold Israel accountable for all these crimes. By the way, the watchtowers, which is a British invention, and it was first realized in India. It was built in Palestine. It is there mainly to create a psychological effect rather than monitoring everyone. Because, as you know, there is electronic surveillance, and you have face recognition tools that even Israel is involved in programs of tapping phones, face recognition on checkpoints. So you wonder why these checkpoints, and I believe it's the psychological effect to make Palestinians feel all the time they are being watched. So my point was to challenge this, the presence of these watchtowers, specifically the watchtowers. And there are many people who were killed through these watchtowers or shot at in Bethlehem, in Hebron, in many places, because the morality, I have to smile about this, the morality of the Israeli forces, Israeli occupation forces, Israeli destruction forces. They often talk, the Israelis, about morality. There is absolutely no morality, and not just during this genocide in Gaza and the ethnic cleansing in the West Bank taking place since October, but also across the years of colonizing Palestine since the Nakba, since 1948. You would see soldiers just killing for the sake of killing, shooting at the youth knees, shooting at the reproduction organs of women, as we witnessed in the Great March Return in Gaza. So in watchtowers, those kids, because some of them are kids, 18 years old and 19, it's like a video game. They can shoot anyone, no accountability. Yeah.
And I mean, what you said about them, sort of like importing this watchtower structure. The Britain did introduce this in India. I'm from India, and this kind of surveillance, like you mentioned, of just face recognition, so present there in India right now. Like even to enter the airport for domestic travel, you need to have your entire face scanned, and it's so pervasive and it's so intrusive because there is no way around it. You cannot really escape it, and this is still, I mean, we know that Indian government is, best friends with the Israeli government right now. There's arms trade, and we've just re-elected for the third time Narendra Modi to office, and it's just going to increase. Um, So I mean, I just can't even imagine uh, living like this 24/7. Like, I'm just talking about entering and exiting an airport, right? And I feel violated. Why are they scanning my whole face? Why are they scanning my whole body? But this is just this. And I mean, what you spoke about then, about the violence, about the people getting shot, it's also what I wanted to ask you next in my other question, which was about this implication of this abject control that you have on Palestinian autonomy. I mean, be it mobility, be it just being able to go to the hospital when you need to, right? And I think you mentioned that you have separate roads, you have segregated license plates. It is so difficult to even fathom then just a simple visit to the hospital, for example, and how terrifying it must be in case you took the wrong road. And when you were looking at these structures in your project, what could you just contextualize for our readers what you felt about these pervasive monitoring that is forced on Palestinian daily life even today, and it's just going on and on, without any international checks even, right? Not a lot of people know about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been saying for decades and questioning why Israel is the only state in the world above the law, breaks every law, and never was held accountable. Never. The daily lives of the Palestinians, and yes, 76 years, the daily life is a struggle for everyone, whether in 48, where they suffer of discrimination, over 50 laws discriminate against Palestinians who hold Israeli citizenship. And now, during this dark time, they're being suppressed, expelled from their works, as we've seen with Nadira, a colleague of ours, Nadira Shalhoub. Even a singer put emoji on Facebook. She was arrested. So this is in 48. In the West Bank, it is horrific. And I believe Israel is using the war on Gaza, the genocide in Gaza, and all the attention is there, international attention there, to annex more land, to expel more Palestinians from the West Bank. And it is true, they displaced 20 communities so far since October, and the checkpoints skyrocketing over 600, at least 600 checkpoints, and we're talking about 8,000 square kilometer, the West Bank. The cities and towns and refugee camps, they brought more gates to lock these communities with gates. If there were no gates, like here in Bethlehem, where I am now, in Beit Jala, they brought rocks, huge rocks, and blocked one of the roads. The checkpoints, it's another way of colonizing, not just the land and the life and controlling everything, but colonizing time, colonizing the Palestinians' time. Like, you cannot plan, you cannot estimate the time if you want to go to a doctor, to your university, which our students suffer every day coming to the university from other places. We turned into online teaching sometimes. So these checkpoints, there is no logic for it, absolutely no logic. Just dividing the West Bank, a single soldier can lock one of these checkpoints and let hundreds of cars waiting. A woman can give birth, which, by the way, my book, Driving in Palestine, is dedicated to the women who give birth at checkpoints. give birth to new lives while waiting to cross. This is now we're back to this intense situation that was really horrific in the Second Intifada. We're back to the situation now where hundreds of cars can line up on checkpoints. Additional ones are created. There is something called flying checkpoints, which is it's an ambush checkpoint. It's like what happened yesterday in one of the Palestinian province governorate of Ramallah, Al-Biri. In Kufr Na'mi village, the Israelis attacked a car. It has 4 Palestinians. One of them was freed just less than 2 years from prison after spending 21 years. They shot them. They turned their bodies into, like they shred their bodies with their bullets, and they took their bodies. They held their bodies. They won't hand the bodies to be buried to their families. These happen on what's called ambush checkpoints. It just imposes, this system of checkpoints imposes suffering on the Palestinians, and it cuts them from their land. People cannot go to their work. And the relations, even the economic relations between one city and another, is controlled. And I'll give you an example. In Jenin, they produce lots of vegetables, for example. We can't get it in Bethlehem, and we get Israeli vegetables. So there is that aspect, the capitalist, colonialist aspect hidden in all this system of restriction of mobility and all these structures and the goal of it. I hope I answered your question.
You did. And I love the way you said that they colonized the time. I think that is also so important, right? The way the settler-colonialist state, Israel, like you said, forbids economic activity. And also, I think, even social activity, going to meet your friends, your family. And when the travel is so restricted, it's
Yeah.
just unimaginable horror. So, I mean, the last, it's not really a question, but a request as we bring this discussion to a close is that when I viewed the project Thriving in Palestine, I felt it was immensely radical, especially for our times. And right now, as we know, there are students who are, putting up encampments outside the universities and struggling against the university authorities and state machinery in certain places where, police have invaded the campuses. And just last month, we had the call for trade union solidarity with Palestinian workers, which also saw, immense action by trade unions worldwide standing in solidarity with Palestinian workers. And any of the supporters and readers of the Internationalist who are struggling and fighting for a free Palestine, who are listening to us today, is there a message that you'd like to share with them?
I would say your courage and dedication inspires every human being on this planet. To the students, to stand up, to rise up for justice and human rights, to fight within these academic halls, workplaces, in the streets and building blocks for change, an actual change, to expose these academic institutions and art institutions as well, the mainstream, how complicit they are in the genocide, they invest in arms with the state of Israel. Again, the capitalist, colonialist interests are intertwined as well here. So these students in the camps are heroes, and they are making a difference globally. And it is uplifting for us, the Palestinians. In Gaza, in the West Bank, across Palestine, we admire these students and we appreciate all their effort and also suffering. Many of them now are in courts, and many of them were beaten, and many of them they're fighting to boycott for the boycott, divestment, and sanction from Israeli academic institutions, arm industry, etc. To the trade unions, your solidarity with the Palestinians and the Palestinian workers in particular, I mean, it's a reflection of the power of collective action and collective organized action, which the settler-colonial capitalist powers always target to, because they realize the power of collective and organized action. You're amplifying again, you as workers amplify the voices of those who are silenced. And I mean silenced in the global south, all the colonized, oppressed across the globe. And it really offers hope for change, for actual change. Trade unions, you strengthen the global labor movements and reinforce a message that the genocide against one, it's against all. And without all of us achieving justice, there is no future. Thank you for all your effort. We watch from here how significant, how important it is to see you active in the streets, all of you, and you, of course, the Internationalist. You're doing amazing work. Thank you. I receive your message often, and I see your activism across the world. Yes, we need to unite. We need to make change. This solidarity movement shouldn't dissipate after a ceasefire or all this nonsense of negotiation. It should continue. It should continue and become stronger and stronger. And we should instead, I'm sorry, but I'm thinking of globalization and how the freedom of goods, the freedom of capital. But when I look at the unions, the students' unions, the labor unions, we should connect and break all barriers across our planet. And the environmentalists as well. I mean, we have lots of challenges everywhere, not just in Palestine. Thank
And
you.
I think you put it really beautifully when you said that it is the collective action that is going to get us there. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. And also, I also want to thank you for sharing your insights, your time. Your project is so important. I feel everybody in the world should look at these photographs once and just feel the visceral violence of this 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 Zionist project. I think which has taken so many lives, but like you also said, has also psychologically impacted the future generations. And the more we talk about it, the more we document it, the more the future generations, at least I hope, will be able to hold these structures accountable in a way they haven't been able to today, which is disappointing. But I still hold out hope.
I hope so.
Yeah. So
Thank,
yeah,
yeah,
thank you once again. And
thank,
I
yeah,
can end the recording here unless you have anything else to add.
thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your network and the world, and keep acting, keep speaking about Palestine, keep speaking about justice, environmental issues. These issues all connected, but Palestine sparked the revolution across the world, I hope.